my opinion.
It can be, right. It can be very boring.
Right.
The Bengals, the Eagles, the Packers, or excuse me, not the Eagles, the Packers, the Chiefs, all made huge mistakes by not taking Michael Pittman. You can book that.
Concur.
You can book that. The Green Bay pick, obviously taking Jordan Love is very interesting, and people have been talking about that for, days now. But I think the Chiefs, and I know they needed some running help, so I wasn't surprised they took a running back. But to give a guy like Michael Pittman to Patrick Mahomes, and then first pick of the second round, if you're Cincinnati, he's still on the board.
Yeah.
And they went with a different guy. I mean, you look at the trend of SC receivers in the NFL, especially in the past couple years, mainly with Juju and Nelson Aguilar and Adoree. I don't get why those teams at the end of the first round and why the Bengals didn't capitalize. And Phillip Rivers, man, I mean, he just got a dude.
Well, Rivers is known as a chucker, so
exactly.
Hey, have at it, man.
If he wants to pull a Matt Fink out of his back pocket one game and say, "Hey, Mike, go get it," might be a match made in heaven. But I think we all agree that Pittman and even T. Higgins, they were first round material. I mean, shit, the draft was deep at wide receiver.
It was.
I think of the first, I got to look at my notes, but, there was something like 30-something receivers taken in the first 2 rounds. Give me a second.
Damn.
Keep babbling. And
so people that were talking about how running backs are becoming less and less important, they were not wrong.
The draft saw 36 wide receivers taken, 13 in the first 2 rounds, and 10 teams alone took 2 wide receivers. I mean, so what you were saying, Scott, yeah. And I was going to make a mention of that. The running game in the NFL is secondary to the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
The passing game now sets up the running game if you want to use the running back.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's a copycat league, and the last couple of years it's been little guys who can run around and throw.
Yeah.
And little guys who can run around and throw are winning Super Bowls. So, with the exception of Brady, of course. So,
look at the last guy that was chosen in the first round.
Kyler Murray?
No. The last one in the first round this year. The LSU
running back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just commenting on the size, but he's one of those guys like you were talking about. Get out. He can get open in space.
Yeah.
And just get the ball in his hands and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Adding any skill player to the Chiefs is just gonna work. So whether it was Pittman, I mean, the thought of Pittman going into that situation, I just thought was great, and I think he landed in a good spot. Also, though, what do we think about Austin Jackson going to the Dolphins?
I think the Dolphins did. I don't know. I honestly stopped following the NFL probably less and less every year over the last 3 or 4 years. But it seems to me that the Dolphins had a very good draft. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, if you're looking to, build a team, they drafted their franchise quarterback. Hopefully they drafted their franchise left tackle. Tua is a lefty, so, Austin won't be responsible for his blind side.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, and I think Josh might be the person we should ask because he's a huge Finns fan. I think the consensus is that they had a great draft.
Yeah, it just seemed like it to me.
I think if Tua can stay on the field, he's going to be a star. I don't think anybody disputes that. I mean, the work ethic, the intangibles, from the time he was little, everybody's known he's different in the best way possible. So that comes down to sort of if he can stay on the field. And they added a really good young offensive lineman, obviously, that we're familiar with. And, I think the thing to always just be wary of in those situations, it's the same with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, is the culture these kids are entering. A lot of these kids come from really good cultures, winning programs. And you're going into a situation in Miami where, there isn't a lot of winning going on. And, Cincinnati, obviously, there's not winning going on at all. So the only thing that I worry about with a lot of these guys is are they going to be a victim of the culture, or are they going to be able to change it as a young player?
Well, typically when you're a bad team, you're choosing early. So one of the trends, though, and I don't know if it's really a trend, I think it's been going on for a while. The players are chosen from the winning teams in college first. I mean, just look at the first round. It was dominated by Alabama, LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, and then, such as the SEC.
Well, it was well documented. Lane Kiffin's tweet about LSU having more first-round draft picks than the Pac-12. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I really enjoy keeping up with Lane's Twitter feed.
But they have 14 guys total taken, LSU?
LSU had 15 players total taken.
15 total. I mean, God.
What was it, 14 or 15?
What was USC's most during Pete Carroll's year?
All I know is LSU broke whatever record was there.
Ohio State, right? They beat Ohio State's record, I think. I'm just curious what USC had, because some of those teams were filthy. And when you're talking 15 total kids drafted, that's half. I mean, if you get half your starters going in the NFL draft, that's 12. So, I mean, we're talking about almost 2/3 of a football team got drafted.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Did they win the national championship?
Yeah. They literally had half their team. It seemed, drafted. The fact that only 2 players from USC were drafted, and John Houston is the only free agent signing right now.
Yeah,
is interesting.
Yeah, well, I thought for sure Christian Rector was somebody who was going to be like an immediate, addition to somebody. I mean, that floored me, to be quite honest with you. That really not nobody.
Christian Rector, Drew Richmond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all guys that are deserving of shots, and they'll get shots. They'll get sent to training camps, I'm sure. But I think that overall, what you see, especially when you compare USC to these SEC schools, just being realistic about it, is it's a result of the dysfunction that plagued the program for the last couple of years in terms of the overall level of the recruits they've been getting and things like that. And I think that in the next couple NFL drafts, you'll see an uptick of Trojans taken, especially when you think about the receiver talent. Sure. And the O-line talent, some of these kids that they're getting for future classes. I mean, these are pros. So,
well, also remember, who came back this year who was draft eligible. We're talking about Tyler Vaughn, Jay Tufele.
Yeah, Tyler would have been drafted. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, for sure. Tyler's
I mean, so there were still players that would have been drafted.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
You can talk about Again, Wole Betiku, has he been signed as a free agent, undrafted from anybody yet?
That's that's the stuff I don't know. He'd be another guy that if I was an NFL club, I would take my chances with somebody like him.
You throw him on the practice squad. You teach him how you get him in, enrolled in a gymnastics class, limber him up a little bit, and who knows what he could turn into. Physically, he's a beast.
But Blake is right in us because, it may be hard for us sometimes to pay attention to what's going on everywhere, especially for me. I mean, if I'm not tunnel vision on what we have going on here, I kind of have to be. So I do lose sight of some stuff. But, going forward and looking at the USC football program, there's no doubt that they're going to have several first 2-round guys.
I mean, it's
next 3 to 4 years. I mean, there's they're going to have they brought in Cortland Ford, who was a 3-star rated dude. Just this one example. There's not one offensive lineman that was signed in the Pac-12 better than him. Not one. So you have those guys. You have some defensive backs, and you've got some that defensive line of USC. Every single one of those guys, barring a couple, and we don't need to start naming everybody, they're all going to be on an NFL club at some point.
Right. No, I think everyone agrees that the draft numbers are going to go up. This draft was a little unique for a couple of reasons. But, you had a bunch of players who have left the program. You had a bunch of players who were eligible who stayed this year. So, hopefully this will be an outlier. Now, the one thing that is still a little odd, even when you look at the total overall numbers, to have USC not have a defensive player drafted at all is still that jumps out at you.
Yeah, I think that when you look at the other programs that have half their teams getting drafted or a bunch of guys, that's a culture that's built up through years and years and years. And USC used to have that. And the reality of the situation is because of the last couple of years, it's not there right now. It's getting there though. And it's going back to that, but you're not going to see that effect in the draft for a little bit because that takes a long time to build, but it also takes winning. And a lot of these programs, another part of this is luck. Some of these programs that are in the college football playoff every single year, I mean, you have no matter how good you are. Think back to when SC was dominating in the early 2000s. You had games in the season that go your way, you get lucky. To get in front of that stage of the college football playoff, most of these teams are undefeated or have one loss. That's a very, very hard thing to do. And that you get more eyes on those players and then those players get drafted. So
what I'm curious about, talk about luck. There's luck involved in everything, including, keeping football players on your football team.
Right.
Could Bubba Bolden have been a draft pick this year if nothing had happened at USC and he had gone on to play the last 2 years? I think so. I mean, I'm not saying he could, but you're talking about USC that has lost that 2016 class. It's quite disturbing to look at some of those classes on how many guys they signed and how many guys never finished at USC. Just the DB class alone.
Oh, Bubba Bolden. It's you look at him. He looks like he has the prototypical NFL body. So you would say, yeah, based on what we've seen. I didn't see him play when he got on the field at Miami, limited as it was. So I can only reflect back to his limited time at SC.
Well,
he was going to start.
But your point being is, he was a player who was at SC at one point. Had he stayed, would he have been drafted? Probably, because he looks like an NFL player. And you're going to assume that, somebody's going to take a flyer on him.
I think I think with a guy like him, just as any big recruit at a high school, there's a big element of player development to this, right? And all the recruits we have on this show, they all talk about the reason USC is becoming such a hot commodity is because of the coaching changes they've made on the assistant side and bringing in Dante Williams and bringing in Orlando, right? You can get all the recruits in the world, but you got to develop them. And you look at LSU, you look at Alabama, you look at Ohio State. These are programs that are masters at player development. And recruits see that. And that's why those recruits have been going to those schools. And as we can see from the guys we have on this show, some of the top guys in the country, SC is changing that. But I think that's another part of it. You talk about a guy like Bubba Bolden. For a bevy of reasons, there are guys that come and go. But the guys that stay, or the guys that might have stayed had, things gone a different way. I think a lot of that has to do with the assistant coaches you have and the player development side.
The player development side is a huge, huge element. There's no doubt about that. But I just don't think that USC recruited very good football players. That's just my opinion. I mean, you could talk about the player development, and that's been lacking. There's no question about that. But I'll tell you what, you just go back and you look at some of the guys that they were bringing in. They were bringing in a few guys because they wanted to get a Dory. They brought in a few guys for this, a few guys for that. I mean, good Lord, USC they had a high recruiting ranking for their class. But if you really go look at some of the guys they brought in, I mean, I didn't think a lot of them were going to ever make it to the NFL to begin with. So, you can also look at that element. Because I don't think USC was doing a very good job of recruiting. And there were various levels of its badness and different reasons why it wasn't good. But part of it was the players they were taking. Part of it was how they were recruiting the players they were looking at. So, and then the lack of player development, you go into that, and then, yes, you end up with the class they had this year with no defensive guys taken.
Yeah, and Lawrence Jackson was on our show talking about wanting to sit down with some of these guys. Like, when you talk about the legacy of USC football and the defenders that have come through that program, to have no defenders taken in an NFL draft, I mean, that's a big deal.
Right. And so far, only one has signed as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
And he was a senior captain.
I mean, every year
whose family has played in the NFL. So maybe somebody, God, I hate to say, somebody pulled the sympathy or empathy strings for him and said, hey, let's take a flyer on an alumni type of thing.
But it is surprising because every year we're accustomed to, the draft ends and then the next 15 minutes is 7 guys are announced signing free agent contracts or whatever.
It's just a ripple effect. I mean, the administration in the last couple of years, it's no secret, didn't give the football program the resources it needed to be at that elite level, and that's changed. So now this will be a domino effect where down the line you'll see the results, but it takes time. Rome wasn't built.
Hunter Echols' class is going to be the 2017 class, because that class was going to be really, really probably worse under the circumstances. It might have been worse than any of the recruiting classes they had until Sam Darnold took over as quarterback and they won every football game after Utah and won the Rose Bowl. That recruiting class came together. Those are some ballers they got in, like the Marlins, the J2 Peles, the Elijah, both Elijahs, right? They both came in. So I think that recruiting class is going to start being USC. Okay, well, USC's got it. They got some ballers coming in, and then it'll follow. Because I do think, even though the recruiting rankings were not that great, I don't know what 219 ended up being, what the ranking ended up being, but 2020, I mean, my opinion, you got 5 NFL offensive linemen. I know they brought in 6, but I'm sure one of them's not going to end up in NFL. But I'm confident 5 out of those 6 guys.
Well, interesting enough, one of the biggest issues or criticism about USC is the offensive line or the lack of the development. But, the last 2 drafts, our 2 highest drafted players have been offensive linemen. Had Elijah Vera Tucker gone this year, he would have been drafted as well. I think we would all agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just development. It's how it's all coming together. USC obviously has NFL talented players or NFL caliber players. Some of them are being developed at a better rate than others, maybe. Why it's not coming together at USC, whether it's coaching or whatever it is, I think, we all can come up with enough reasons why, but USC still has enough talent that it shouldn't be this bad. But going back to what you were saying, Scott, that USC just wasn't recruiting that well. We're still putting guys in, but it's the way it's going in. It's like playing Jenga almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I think, all programs go through this where they're going to have, USC is one of the rare exceptions for having at least the longevity, the streak of having a draft pick for 82 straight years. I don't even know what the number is, but, whatever, 80 something, whatever it is pretty damn good. So
this was like 19 consecutive years where they've had at least 2 players drafted, which is still the best in the entire country.
Yeah.
Right. And well, I mean, even look at LSU a couple years ago. I mean, they after going on a little bit of a run and playing Alabama, it seemed like every other year in the BCS, they had a little bit of a dry spell, and it took them a couple years. Then they got their stuff together. SC has had some up and down years here, and it looks like they may be putting together upcoming a string of those really good years again. So every program goes through those ups and downs, and there is a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, it's just I think everybody, my frustration, I'm sure other fans' frustrations, is when you're seeing guys not getting picked, and not just from USC, from other programs as well. They're being passed over for guys that were literally third string, played like 4 or 5 plays a game for SEC teams. I mean, I get it. You know, these guys look the part, but are they really better than some of these guys that are being passed over who have a lot of game film and a lot of experience?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that has to do with exposure and the SEC teams that are playing in those big games and the scouts that see them, I would think. But you do make a good point. I mean, that's why there are guys every year in the NFL they become stars that are 7th round picks, 5th round picks, undrafted. Every single year there are guys that emerge that are later round guys. For that reason, I think.
But but with the recruiting part of it again, which leads to the draft picks when you recruit well and develop, of course, is USC is positioned to have a lot more first and second round picks from just who they have on the team now, and then the recruiting part, because kids, like you said, Blake, they have confidence in the USC coaching staff to develop them. So you can be USC, but if those kids don't think USC is going to develop them as a football player, they're not all that interested to hear about the other stuff. When you talk about elite football players, you can talk about the school and what it has to offer you. That's just added bonus in the end for elite football players. Not every one of them, most of them.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, it's really important. USC's on a big momentum roll right now with recruiting. But these guys that are being recruited right now, they're going to keep an eye on the next draft, and they're going to keep an eye on players, how they play this year, assuming we play this year.
Well, we have to talk. We're not going to add that caveat in anymore. We're going to talk like we're playing a football season, and if they don't, then they don't.
Right, but that point being is, now the talk's being talked. Now it's time to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So
who are we looking at? Since we're on a draft topic here, who are the guys on offense that 2020-21 draft comes around? Who are you guys looking at as this first 2 rounds for USC on offense? We'll start there.
I think let's start with Stephen Carr. He's another guy who was draft eligible. Does he get drafted? Look, if we're basing on what he's done so far, he's not day 1 or day 2.
Yeah. No.
So is he, where does he get drafted? Third round through 7th, or does he get drafted?
Well, Vavai is in the same boat, but him, on the other hand, I do think he would get drafted.
Vavai?
He would today? Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think he would be taken in the first 7 rounds.
Okay.
But
what about Card?
I don't know. I mean, I think he's in need of another season more than Vi.
And I'm using Steven specifically because he was a 5-star, and we know that whole narrative.
He needs another football season. I truly believe that.
Blake, your opinion? So I understand. Okay, I got you. Stephen Carr needs another year. Vavai, you think gets drafted. So that's at running back. I think wide receiver, it's a no-brainer for Amon-Ra. Now, is Amon-Ra a first or second rounder?
Yeah, I don't know. But that's where you need to start talking. You have to start talking with NFL people, kind of.
Did the NFL, shoot their wad this year with so many wide receivers that next year
I was thinking that
the priorities might be different?
Yes.
So Tyler Vaughn's, I think he'll get drafted. He's not a day 1 or day 2 guy.
All right, so we're moving on to Elijah Vera Tucker. Is he a guard that goes in the first 2 rounds? I don't know where guards go. I saw 1 guard taken in the first round.
Yeah, guards, unless you're like an instant impact plug right in.
Yeah,
you're usually 3rd, 4th round guy.
Yeah,
which isn't bad. Which isn't bad.
No, it is not. We're not saying it is either. Because you get drafted.
And you get to start your second contract faster, when you're not in the, in the guaranteed money round. So,
okay,
right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how the CBS works. CBA, excuse me.
All right. So how about on defense? What are we looking at on defense?
Well, are there any other offensive linemen besides Vera Tucker next year?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounded like we were kind of exhausted out of our offensive topic there. I wasn't sure.
Well, Dedich, you got Nealon. I don't think we have any other tackles unless no.
Yeah. Jalen McKenzie.
Yeah, on defense.
But on defense, defense you got. I personally, we talk about Tufele and all that, and to me, he seems like he goes and does another place. A consistent football season. I think he's a top 2 round guy.
Oh yeah, but he's, absolutely. He's got the body for it. Linebacker, I think again is going to be a soft spot, and until we see some production there. Does Jordan Iosefa look like he could play in the NFL? Sure. He wasn't even going to be ready to play this spring. So, again, we're in a wait and see mode with him. Same thing with Solo. He's an NFL guy, but let's just see him play for a year before he takes off and leaves. Which I guess that's the question. Is that a real possibility with him?
With who's now? Are we Solo?
Yeah. Playing
yeah, I mean, we're not going to. Honestly, I'm not even going to start that conversation.
Well, we're talking about who's draft eligible from defense next year.
Yeah, I mean that's what that's what we're talking about. We know we can't possibly even begin to debate whether he's going to be eligible or not because we have to wait for him at least to play 1 football game.
Okay.
But yes, he is an NFL football player, absolutely no doubt. I mean, so 1 season for him could do it. I mean, it really could. But that's hard. That's a lot to ask. A defensive linebacker play 1 football season in a defense he's never played in before. But then again, maybe might be the most perfect defense for him, and he just kills it.
Is Caleb Tremblay an NFL guy?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, absolutely. Caleb Tremblay is an NFL guy. Then you start talking about some guys that were still they've been at USC for a while, like Jake and Lichtenstein and all that. There's guys that we have no idea what they're going to look like, and this season was going to tell us a lot, right? We saw guys and we've seen the potential. The potential was just potential. This was a year where the potential was supposed to show itself on the football field with a lot of guys. So it's hard for us to actually talk draft, because there isn't Robert Woods and there aren't these guys that are Amon-Ra is there, but the rest of the receiver group is still pretty young.
JT Daniels is a candidate.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, I mean, all those guys.
There's a lot more, I guess, draft potential next year and the years beyond.
Yeah, next year and the year beyond.
Yeah, whether or not a Hufanga or Polamalu want to test the market next year.
Yeah,
just because they've got some injury history. Again, all this stuff comes into play.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, the draft was it was good that Austin Jackson went in the first round and Pittman almost did, and I think that was actually before the draft play. Let's say when the football season ended, if somebody would have said that Jackson's going, was he 18, 16?
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. And Pittman would be 34. We were like, yeah, all right, that's awesome.
Yeah, look, I think everybody anticipated Austin to go in the first round, but not that high.
Yeah.
So the fact that he did, again, that's a testament to him, especially what he went through last year, just on the personal side of things before football even started.
Yeah.
That's huge, and it's big for the program. And then, like we said earlier, Pittman, he was definitely a first round material. To go number 34 overall in this draft, that was so wide receiver heavy.
I didn't know that was the number. I knew it was a lot, but I wasn't paying close enough attention. Somebody obviously tallied it up and said probably on somewhere right there. Because I'm guessing you didn't count the number yourself.
No, same thing. I saw somebody tweet it out there and went, "Wow."
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was a big number. I just didn't realize it was.
That's a lot. I mean, that's extremely significant. If I'm a wide receiver in high school right now, I'm going.
But like I said, there was only 17 total running backs drafted.
Damn.
So that is literally
Blake.
50% of what happened at the wide receiver level. Where'd you go, dude?
I'm sorry, man. I had some intruders in my background I wasn't expecting, and we got to keep the quality up here. You know what I mean?
It was the cone of silence that we were lacking. We could have added that feature.
I'm going to scream, "Hey, Mom. What do you get on the fridge and bring me some?"
The cone of silence.
But yeah, I mean, you guys, I think I didn't really disagree with any of the guys you talked about. I would say JT Daniels is definitely a pro. I mean, whether he stays at USC or not, he's playing in the NFL.
Right.
That's an NFL quarterback for sure.
I mean, this is not a knock, but Cody Kessler's in the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay. So. And
it's funny though.
The best position in the NFL is that clipboard holder. Sorry, go on, Blake.
All right, sorry, Blake.
I don't disagree with that. It's funny. I have a friend who said something on Twitter. It was like a week or two ago. I can't remember when exactly, but he basically made the statement that, all USC quarterbacks are trash in the NFL, and that there were a lot of schools that had better reputations than SC did for quarterbacks. And I get sort of the knock on the NFL part, but at the same time, when you look at all of the guys that SC has had in the NFL that are quarterbacks, I mean, they've had some guys that have done some stuff, and it's at a much higher rate than a lot of these other schools.
Yeah.
SC's been having quarterbacks in the draft for 2 decades. Some of these schools have been having quarterbacks in the draft for a decade. Obviously, with a wider range of test subjects, you're going to have a higher rate of failure. And then the assertion that this guy made that we went back and forth on Twitter a little bit.
Well, listen to this, Blake. Listen to this.
Go ahead.
USC in 2002 had, if you want to combine, I mean, I guess Matt Leinart didn't really pan out as an NFL football player, but if you take Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, and Matt Castle were all on the same football team. I mean, Where else has that happened? Forget all the other stuff.
Right. And the other thing that this guy said was that SC quarterbacks don't win in big games on the collegiate or pro level. And I was sort of off put by that. And I said, Leinart won
Charles Barkley, you mean?
Yeah. Leinart won 2 national championships. Darnold won a Rose Bowl. John David Booty did what he did. Sanchez did what he did.
Yeah.
Matt Barkley did what he did. Cody Kessler had some good years. It was interesting.
You went one quarterback too far there, Blake, but we get your point very well.
You get my point, though?
Yeah.
I'm still fuming about that, all right?
But because here's what happens, Blake. You have somebody who is a Cal fan, and they've got Aaron Rodgers, and they've got Goff, right? So they kind of have scoreboard right now.
In the NFL, in the NFL, they're completely 2 different things. And that's why I asked the question, how much does the NFL value work ethic? Because in college, Blake, and I agree, the USC quarterbacks have won big games. And no offense to Cody Kessler, he's a great quarterback, very good quarterback at USC. But for whatever reason, when they get to the NFL, it's whatever you did at USC doesn't matter at all. I don't care how many big games Matt won or Carson won, John David Booth. It doesn't matter. When you get to the NFL, you better frickin' put your time and effort in, or otherwise you're going to flame out real fast. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how talented you are either. That is a cerebral league, and you better understand defenses when you
right. I think too, another thing to realize about SC quarterbacks in the NFL is because a lot of them are so good in college, they get drafted high and they get put into situations where they have to play right away.
Got to.
You put Cody Kessler, Cody Kessler, Browns. Sam Darnold right now, we obviously don't really know how that's going to pan out long term. Jets. Matt Leinart, Arizona Card. Like you put these guys where they have to play right away, and it is so the percentage of guys that are Patrick Mahomes is so small. Like think of the number one picks the last couple years that have been quarterbacks and how they're doing. Andrew Luck is retired.
Yeah.
And Andrew Luck had some good seasons. What did he win? Right? Guys like that just tells you how slim the odds are. And when you have other guys from other schools that go into better situations or go into situations where they don't have to play right away, I think when you have to play right away, even Sanchez with the Jets, he had to play right away. And in the long run, it didn't really help him.
I think what didn't help Sanchez was he didn't have the tools around him. Plus, all that early success might have gone to his head living in New York. Not saying it did.
He had an all-time defense around him when he first got there. So
right, but when regardless of that, you're the quarterback in New York of the Jets, the same team that Joe Namath made. The dude walked around in mink coats. Mark Sanchez was starting to take on some of that persona. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't working hard, but part of that has to do with, are you in the right situation, but are you making yourself the best you can be? I don't know if the USC quarterbacks going to the NFL have that work ethic because they had so much success at the college level. So when you have to do twice as much, which you really do, even if you were great in college, when you get to the NFL.
Do you think it helps? Do you think it helps for guys to struggle a little more in college?
Yes, absolutely.
To not,
you don't think Aaron Rodgers didn't have a little chip on his shoulder sitting in the green room?
I think sports is the greatest metaphor for life, and this is a perfect example, man. In my opinion, you deal with somebody that has gone through a lot of adversity. When you get to a certain level, it serves you very, very, very well.
It does.
Then if you have your path, then if you just succeed all the time and if you get what you want, right? When you got to work for every little thing you've ever gotten, Tom Brady, when you got to work for every little opportunity you ever get, when you get to that apex and you're going against guys that have been, haven't had those roadblocks, I think the guys that go through the roadblocks are better served.
It's very helpful to know how to pick yourself up out of the gutter and do whatever it might be. Not out of the gutter, but unlike me, but I mean, I know I know the value of it. You sometimes don't know the value of it until it actually does. You actually do get there. But almost, but everybody, forget, this is sports. Every champion has gotten his ass kicked. Every single one of them. So that's just part, like you said, it's just part of life. Yeah. We all get our asses kicked.
You ask any superstar, they will tell you their biggest life lesson is from losing. It's not from winning.
Yes.
That's what drives them. It's what drove Kobe, Michael, Magic, all of them. Losing sucks.
Yes.
Do you guys, I'm interested. What do you guys think about long term how Sam Darnold's NFL career is going to pan out?
I mean, I just don't know why it wouldn't be good. But I don't know that Jets team and what they've got going on over there. And
I'll tell you what, they they protected his backside with this draft. I mean, that dude is massive.
I mean, the Jets definitely love him. They definitely, you saw it in this draft, and they're definitely putting in the effort.
Well, maybe they learned their lesson from the whole Sanchez era. They had, Mark was a very talented quarterback. He had all the tools. He was just as athletic as Sam. But again, Mark, mentally, I don't know if he was as strong as he could be. When he was at USC, when he had that freak knee injury, I know for a fact that messed with his psyche. And that's one of the reasons why he bailed a year early.
There was one day I was playing 24-hour basketball, pickup basketball, 24-hour fitness in South Orange County when I was little, like middle school. And Mark Sanchez walked in, and I played on the same team of him for like 3 games. Nicest guy. Like, he could shoot too. Mm-hmm. He's a good shooter. Yeah. Really good shooter. Our team, yeah, our team did not get off the court anytime soon. We didn't lose for a while. It was very fun. Because of Mark Sanchez. Let me make that clear. It was because of Mark Sanchez.
Good for Sanchez, man.
Yeah, but so yeah, there's so many factors involved. Is it the right situation? Are you working hard? Are you ready? So, not everybody is made to play quarterback in the NFL. Not everybody. It doesn't matter. In fact, it doesn't matter what position. It's not made for everybody. There's a reason you only last. The average lifespan is what, 5 years?
So yeah. I have a question because it was a topic that came up. Why is everybody so pissed off they haven't got their stimulus check yet? And I'm curious, have people actually gotten that yet? Because I don't even know.
I haven't. And every time I go to an IRS site, your information is currently unavailable to us.
Really? I haven't even checked on it. I don't even know what's going on.
I qualify for the stimulus check. I check all the boxes, and I have not received it. And I also, so right now I'm applying to a lot of 4 years for transfer, and even some of the schools I've gotten admitted to, I'm trying to get financial aid offers. And almost every school, as you might imagine, is requesting a tax transcript. And I've been working for multiple years now, so I have taxes that I filed and stuff.
Yes.
And Mark, you just mentioned the IRS. I've been on the IRS website. I cannot get a tax transcript. And it's killing me because these schools, they need it to give me a financial aid offer. And I've been trying to do it by mail. And I just got in contact with this CPA who told me that the IRS is not doing it by mail because they're so understaffed. So I don't know what to do.
I wish I had an answer for you, Blake. My answer right now is,
I think we're all screwed. I don't even know if I qualify.
A couple of weeks ago, I saw, maybe a week and a half ago, I saw somebody tweet, I got my stimulus check. And I was like, really? You're like the
I don't know anybody.
My dad got his direct deposited. Now,
well, because Social Security and all that.
Right, and that's what I said. I think they red flagged the Social Security, all the people.
They were the first. They got theirs like the day after.
But like I said, I checked all the boxes necessary, and to get that message that your information is currently unavailable.
The reason I bring it up is because I don't know anybody that's talked about getting theirs, and at some point, people are actually going to really need it. And Blake has already given an example of needing something that is related to the IRS. So
the other thing I want to add too is if you call them. So for example, with getting, I don't know what it's like with other things there. So getting a tax transcript, when you call them, they literally tell you we're not doing phones because we're understaffed. Go online. So I go online and I'm told to do it by mail, and then I can't do it by mail. So I got to figure something out. But
yeah, because your options are at 0 right now.
Yeah, and I think that for everybody has stuff going on, and they're flooded, man. They're flooded.
It's hard to get upset because the people that are working there, like I said, understaffed, they're just getting slammed. Right. But it doesn't help anybody feel better who needs money.
I'm just glad we don't have people in political power telling us not to go back to work when they tell you can because you're making more money on welfare.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad there aren't people like that doing that right now. Sarcasm off.
I know. It's infuriating to listen to somebody, right, who has shitloads of money, probably 7 bank accounts, telling people. I mean, it's just so fucking comical.
So, yeah.
Pardon my French.
No, Blake, I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry. I could really use that stimulus check myself. I'm having some major computer issues that I need to take care of. That would help a lot. But since
hopefully they figure it out for people, because I know people are going to start. It's going to start becoming a problem.
Right. But since we're on the subject, I did start a thread earlier today. It has nothing to do with this. I'm going to make it perfectly clear. There are people in the Trojan family community who are struggling, who are part of our site and who would like to be a part of our site. And so we're going to try and do a SCoopTV-a-thon type of thing, where we'll set up the fund. Or Scott, you were talking about getting gift certificates.
I'll learn about that tomorrow.
Yes. And I already have somebody who sent me a DM in my inbox, who they've already said they're willing to donate $100 to the fund.
Okay.
So the goal is, and we want to keep it really modest, 10 annuals and 20 monthly subscriptions. One, obviously, it'll help the site grow, but two, it'll just show that the Trojan family is still there for everybody, coming together as one. And even if we surpass those goals, any additional funds that are raised, we can come up with a charity that we can donate it to that might be associated with.
I had another idea that if I me, if I don't talk, I forget. I was thinking, Hopkins always has good ideas for marketing, and he was talking about, he did like a $79.99 annual and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, somebody purchases a gift card for an annual subscription, and this would be a win-win for everybody. I'm thinking you buy one, we'll have a BOGO sale. We'll get those things banged out in a hurry.
There you go. It's working with those "We Fight as One" T-shirts that USC's doing. So
hey, Johnny come lately. Johnny come lately.
Look what the cat dragged in.
I want to ask him a question. Hold on. Eventually.
Hey, show yourself.
Show yourself.
Come on. Technical glitch.
Right, we're gonna start talking shit about him.
Did you hear it? There he is.
There he is.
So, Brandon, did you get a ticket?
No, we didn't get no ticket. Luckily, one of the officers knew Darnell Washington. They just asked us to go home.
Is that dude a man or what?
Yeah, he's a pretty big dude. I'll put it to you this way. As I was driving to the park, I noticed a large human being walking in that general direction. I pretty much knew it was Darnell Washington.
Yeah. Now, he's the only 7-on-7 player I've ever seen to where he would sit there and run 10 yards to the first down marker and just go like this. Nobody could stop it. I mean, he's 6'7".
No, he's one of those players that could step into the NFL today.
Yeah.
And not get cut.
I mean, he wouldn't look out of place, that's for sure.
He would make a team. He'd make a roster.
So anyway, Ryder gone again.
Go away. What are you doing?
So anyway, Mike Jack, you impressed? Brandon, he's muted. Sorry. I was going to ask him if he. Do I need to unmute you, or do you have to unmute you? Oh, he's gone.
There he goes.
So how big was that incline that he had filmed of Michael Jackson running up?
Those aren't like, that's not a hill, like the one that Cortland Ford was running. But those kind of hills that those are a lot steeper than we think.
Those 15
I'd like to know too.
Those 15 to 20 degree grades that aren't real steep, but just gradually keep going.
Yep.
Those grind on your legs hard.
Because he was sprinting up it. So
right.
And Cortland Ford, every day I watch that guy. It's like, man, is that guy? I mean, I know we're just watching video of this, but his dad tells me he works out for a couple hours. a day, every day. Courtland's
Man,
doing something different.
life must be pretty cool when you're named Michael Jackson, King of Pop.
Yeah. So what? So
Okay.
tell us about Michael Jackson the third, Brandon Ryder.
Oh, I'm sorry, having technical difficulties. I'm sorry,
All right.
everything that's right now.
All right.
Having too much fun with the kids today. I like Michael Jackson III. He's a really good young man. Comes from a solid family. I think his attributes as far as on the field that impressed me the most, he has really good feet.
Yeah.
Really good footwork. You could tell he's worked on getting his feet really good. He has a good wide receiver coach, someone with a lot of experience. Don't waste time with a lot of bullshit drills that translate to the field. And he's going to compete for every catch. He attacks the ball. You know, he has really strong hands. Me and his dad talked about that. You don't see a lot of juniors, even the more physically developed ones, with arms like that. He really goes after the ball. And when he doesn't, when he gets, you know, battled for a ball and he doesn't get it, he don't like that. You know what I'm saying? He wants to win rep out there. So, you know, me and his father talked about that. I think his competitiveness and his just will to win is really going to be what carries him. You know what I'm saying? Because he has talent and he has skills, but his competitiveness is on the whole.
Yeah, it is. He's a confident dude. But after watching the video that you got to watch him in person, but after watching the videos that you sent me of him working out, you know, after talking to him and him saying the Amon Ra thing, I'm like watching him going, yeah, he can absolutely fill that role from what I've seen yesterday.
Yeah, most definitely. I don't know if you remember Cal receiver Bryce Treggs.
Yes.
Yes.
He kind of reminds me of Bryce Treggs a little bit. They're about the same size. He's a little more physically developed than Bryce at this age, but Bryce in college, they have a similar build. You know what I mean? And Bryce was a really strong route runner. You know, quick feet, and I think that's Mike's. He has super quick feet, and he worked on it. His coach. You know, I like one of the things his coach talked about was keeping their hips under him and dipping his hips, and you could tell Mike has worked at that a lot because it's almost like it's natural to him. You know what I mean?
You're gonna hear, I think, footwork be mentioned probably more than we have in years past with USC recruits, because I mean the easiest way to figure out whether USC likes a DB, and this is when I first started noticing the footwork part. If those feet aren't, if they don't have quick feet, USC has no. It doesn't matter whether they're long. All that stuff's irrelevant if the footwork isn't there.
Quick feet is one of those things that it's hard to overestimate it. It is very important. You just want to have quick feet in the right places. I think that's what's important for kids to understand. You know, ladder drills are cool, and you know all the fancy stuff is cool. But I think one of the things that Mike worked on was foot placement with his quickness. You know, putting his feet in the right place as he's breaking down on that comeback route. And I think that's what's important. Having quick feet, but having it in the right places. You know what I mean? You don't want to just have quick feet and be chop, 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 and that's how you run your whole route. You know what I mean? You want to have quick feet, dip your hips, and I noticed they focused on that. I was emphasis on almost every drill that involved that portion of route running, and that was impressive to me. And he's good at it.
So USC's in really good shape with him, you know. So, I think if they take 3 receivers, I'm not sure who the other one will be, but I think they're on their way to getting Michael Jackson, and he got Quay Davis, who we're kind of waiting on to make his announcement. So, you know, those considering the depth chart, have you guys ever thought of how many receivers that would make sense for USC to take? Because I eliminate them from my thinking most of the time. Let other people do it.
I don't consider the depth chart. They take what they want.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point, you got to balance the depth chart a little bit. So, yeah, you got to look at the numbers.
I mean, but we have to ask ourselves too, how many receivers is necessary for Graham's system? Because I remember that first spring he talked about.
Okay, forget the wide receivers. How many tight ends are we going to use?
None.
And how many do we have?
5.
And how many do we use?
We're not going to use any.
Okay, so that's the same question applies. So that eventually you got to look at the wide receiver numbers and go, you know what? We got a lot. They're all dudes. Let's maybe look at another position and backfill it there.
Yep.
And come back to wide receiver.
So also, Anthony Beavers posted on Twitter the next 3 commits. We're trying to do a little recruiting part here. We did the NFL draft. Now we're moving on. We've been talking about the commits that are up. We're waiting on Quay Davis. Jalen Smith. I don't know how close he is to do announcing, and I don't know how close Michael Jackson. But I think we're getting to the point where Julian Simon might be close to announcing also. So we mentioned him earlier this week when we did the Corey Foreman show. USC was on FaceTime that day with him and was feeling really good about him. Now you're seeing a bunch of crystal balls going for Julian Simon.
I want to ask you about that because I've been very outspoken. I think he is, besides Corey Foreman, USC's must-get guy in this class. I'm starting to read some other team sites that had interest in Julian. And all of a sudden now, he's not quite the elite level talent that they should be looking at. And, if USC.
Of course not.
Huh? Right.
Yeah, of course not.
So are the crystal balls rolling in because USC, both he and USC like each other a lot? Or is it because other programs are starting to back away?
It's definitely not.
Anybody's
it's not because other programs are backing away.
Yeah,
I can assure you of that.
Yeah, you think he's going to play inside? I think he's going to be the perfect outside edge.
Could be. I mean, physically, you can do a lot with him.
A lot, right? I saw someone on the board said, "You want a big running back?" There he is, and I think. Everybody has their preferences. I